morning. It's Tuesday, October 21st. Everyone writes day. Oh, sure, everyone writes, but does everyone write good? Well, do they? That's a grammar joke. And now, the news. Starting with the internet. Have you heard of it? It's a series of pipes. On Monday, the internet was bad. The internet is always bad in some places, but on Monday, the internet was not working. Like, most of the internet was not working. So here's what happened. Amazon, which used to only sell books, that's all this thing was built for, just books. Hey, I want to read more about whales. Great, there's a website for it. And now that same person, just not that many years later, is building rockets that go to high sky and crashed most of the internet. Neat career trajectory. But I bet he doesn't know as much about whales as I do. For example, did you know that whales have accents? I bet Jeff Bezos doesn't. So that's something that I have that Jeff Bezos doesn't. So suck it, Jeff Bezos. Hey, stop distracting me. Here's what happened. Starting at about 1 a.m. Eastern Time, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, issued a statement confirming, quote, significant error rates for requests, end quote. Now, note that I said AWS and not just Amazon, because this wasn't just, whale books. AWS accounted for 37% of the global cloud market last year. So now we're talking about mobile banking and airline booking sites, in addition to PlayStation and social media sites. Let me give you an example of how far-reaching this is. And perhaps, now that I'm about to tell you this, now that I'm in it already, I'm thinking about this on the fly, an example of also how cool I am. When my alarm goes off, my lights are supposed to come on slowly for 30 minutes. Instead, they blast it on at 100% immediately. So I'm the real victim here. Also, Councilwoman Ruth Meowser Stanson's food is connected to it, it goes off on a timer. It apparently is also connected to this AWS cloud-based system. So her food didn't get served at 6 a.m. She's fine. Everyone relax. She's fed. She's all right. She's not starving. She acts like it. She acted like it was the end of the world, but she is fine. But that's how far-reaching it was. It hit a ton of stuff. This does not appear to have been a cyber attack. Instead, it was a technical error. So no one worry. A bunch of the internet crashed because of an internal error. That's better somehow, I guess. The total cost of the outage is not yet known, but expected to reach the hundreds of billions of dollars range. Should have stuck to books about whales, my guy. Moving to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. On Friday, Ukraine's President Zelensky will visit London for a, quote, coalition of the willing before heading to Hungary to meet with Trump for a meeting of the, oh no, not this guy again. Expect the Trump-Zelensky conversation to be super uncomfortable, and here's why. When we last left Trump's views on Ukraine, he all of a sudden was like, hey, I cracked open a book, not on purpose, I promise. I was just going to get more Diet Coke, and it fell open, and I happened to notice that perhaps I was wrong on this whole Russia-Ukraine thing. And suddenly, he was saying that he thought Ukraine could win Russia's invasion. But after a call last week with Putin, Trump returned to his Putin-agreeing ways and refused the tomahawks that Zelensky requested, and in a meeting that turned very loud and very awkward, Trump apparently urged Zelensky to end the war by just accepting Putin's terms and handing over the land that Putin stole. So apparently Zelensky literally walked into this meeting, had maps of Ukraine showing the borders and what Putin had done and what Ukraine should get back. And Trump just threw the maps out of his hands. So all of that to say, getting everyone on the same page in this London meeting is vital ahead of Zelensky's next meeting with Trump. Like I said, it will happen on Friday, so we will talk about it on Monday. But we almost had to start this episode like we start here in America, but thanks to family members of the suspect, tragedy was avoided. The family of 49-year-old Billy Cagle called the police to tell them that Cagle was headed to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, one of the busiest in the world, with an AR-15 and 27 rounds. His plan was to shoot up the airport indiscriminately. Investigators are looking for a motive. He was unarmed when he was arrested and had been at the airport for about 11 minutes, but the gun and rounds were found in his truck. He has been arrested on suspicion of making terroristic threats, criminal attempt to commit aggravated assault, and firearm charges. Speaking of guns, the Supreme Court will consider whether people who regularly smoke pot can own guns. So you can regulate guns. Neat to know. It centers around a Texas man who had a gun in his home and was a regular marijuana smoker. The Department of Justice appealed a lower court's decision to strike down a law barring people who use illegal drugs from owning a gun. What do you want me to say here? What am I supposed to say? 19 kids died in the Uvalde school shooting. 20 died in the Sandy Hook shooting. Every year, there are more mass shootings than days of the year. But pot is the thing that you're going to regulate? I don't know. I truly, whatever. I don't know what to say here. The case is going to be argued early next year. We can regulate guns now, apparently, I guess. Moving to our hostile government takeover, on Monday, a 3-judge panel ruled that Trump can deploy the National Guard in Portland, despite the governor and mayor never asking for it, nor having any need for them to be there. In response, Oregon's governor has asked a federal appeals court to review and overturn the decision. The lone dissenting judge in this case wrote this, quote, "No legal or factual justification supported the order to federalize and deploy the Oregon National Guard. Given Portland's protesters' well-known penchant for wearing chicken suits, inflatable frog costumes, or nothing at all, when expressing their disagreement with the methods employed by ICE, observers may be tempted to view the majority's ruling, which accepts the government's characterization of Portland as a war zone, as merely absurd. But today's decision is not merely absurd. It erodes core constitutional principles, including sovereign states' control over their state's militias and the people's First Amendment rights to assemble and to object the government's policies and actions." End quote. While the state's Attorney General Dan Rayfield summed the entire thing up with this, quote, "We are on a dangerous path in America." End quote. Yeah, Dan. Agreed. And an update on the government shutdown. It's still shut down. The Senate failed to pass another budget vote on Monday. Welcome, everyone, to day 21. And finally, in nuts, that was my idea news. On Sunday, around 9:30 in the morning, 4 suspects robbed the Louvre. I'm pronouncing it the best I can. Don't worry about what I'm doing here. That's the best I can do. I've never been there before. They robbed it in the middle of the morning, 9:30 in the morning. They threatened some guards, they cut some glass, and then they rode off on scooters. Scoots. It's serious. It is serious. A member of the French Senate's Finance Committee is calling it a, quote, "very painful episode for France." Yeah, I bet they rode off in scooters. The whole thing happened in 8 minutes. They may have stopped for a pastry on their way home. Oui. The items stolen were 2 tiaras, 2 brooches, an emerald necklace, a pair of emerald earrings, a sapphire necklace, a single sapphire earring, and, not listed, but likely stolen, Julia Roberts' heart. Because this is basically Ocean's 14. You know what was pretty good, actually? Ocean's 8. I liked it. When Sandra Bullock gets into the hotel room for free, that was cool. Full disclosure, I thought it was Anne Hathaway that did that. Shout out to first-time listener, I assume, and probably last-time listener, but full-time person forced to share an office with me, Nicole, for telling me something I could have Googled, and yet just in the moment did not feel like it. One of the tiaras was found because apparently they dropped it while they were on their little scooters, while they were on their getaway. They just were like, oh no, wee, a tiara fell. We must go. And then they, I assume, had mustaches. Here's a fun fact. The Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre in 1911 by an Italian museum employee who just like took it off the wall and then put it under his coat and walked out with it. And I'm starting to think that doing a heist at the Louvre is not that hard. Stealing Julia Roberts' heart, though, maybe that's something we're still working on. And in breaking news, the Toronto Blue Jays will now head to the World Series to play the LA Dodgers, which means Canada has the opportunity to do the funniest thing. Sports by Kim. And that's it. That's the news. I'm proud of Julia Roberts. I'm sorry. She's charming as hell. You watch that woman, you tell me she's not winning you over. I now want to watch Notting Hill. I love it. I'm sorry. I love it. I'm equally proud of writers. But more than writers, all the writers, I'm a writer, more than me, obviously, but more than all the writers, because you know all the best words and you put them in my very favorite order. I'm proud of you.